Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. If you desire to intimately connect with yourself, significant other, children, family, friends, community, and higher power, then this is the show for you. We explore intimate topics, inspiring life stories, spirituality, and insightful tips on strengthening relationships. The show is hosted by Dr. April and her co-host, Coach K. Let's get this episode of the Bringing Intimacy Back show started. We share with you today the secret power to intimacy to create the life you love or love the life you create. Now here's your host, Dr. April, and her co-host, Coach K.
Welcome to the Bringing Intimacy Back show, where intimacy is real. Welcome, Coach K.
Hello there. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Yes, definitely. So I am excited about today's topic. My family doesn't approve of him.
Yeah. When I saw that topic, I was like, this is the one. This is the topic. It's happening. I'm excited about it as well.
Yes, definitely. And if you're out there and you're listening live on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, please, or Twitter, please chime in. Put your questions in, and we will share them with the audience, and we will, give you what we think should be.
Absolutely.
Yes. But before we get into the topic, I know everybody's out there listening. We always want to highlight a nonprofit. So our nonprofit for today is Fostering Hope Florida. It's a great nonprofit that helps with that fostering process and help fostering kids and parents and struggles. So if you're out there, please check that out.
Absolutely. Such a worthy cause for our foster care program and children.
Yes, definitely. Well, let's just dive right into this topic here about relationships are tough, and especially when you feel like, my family doesn't support the relationship.
Yeah, that's because many times when you go through whatever you go through, you want to be able to talk to someone that's close to you that you can trust, and that's usually your family. So when you can't do that, it's like, what do you do?
Right. And I was just thinking, even one thing as a disclaimer, though, if you're coming from a family that is very toxic, you know what I'm saying? Where there's a lot of just a variety of stuff, whether it's been affairs, addiction, just a variety of where people just don't know how to communicate. And then you meet someone, but your family doesn't approve. Should you care? Because maybe you don't even really approve of your family.
That's a really good. So I am on the side of, hey, I'm with you, not your family. But I know that there's a fine line really to walk in between that.
Yeah, there is a fine line. I'm on the side that if you don't respect your family or a certain person in your family, why should their opinion matter?
Absolutely. Because many times if you've grown up in a place where you didn't feel safe in any environment, any where you grew up from, and you find this safe place in your partner, and then you have this family who you've always couldn't wait to get away from, and they don't like that person, it could just drive you further into your partner's arms, whether they're good for you or not.
Right. So if you're out there and you have a troubled family, I think it's something that you really have to think about, whether you think about what they say and, determine, should this really affect my life?
And then just thinking about a comment from one of the viewers, it could be a case of you like someone of the same sex. You may be gay, you may be bi, you may be non-binary, and you found that safe place, but your family is just dead set against it because it could be religious reasons, it could be sheer ignorance.
Right.
And that's hurtful. And honestly, it can ooze into the relationship itself.
Mm-hmm. Right. And you're right. Whether someone's gay or just even from a different culture.
Yep.
Yes, yes. So I've dated outside my culture, and for some people that's hard because the family is like, I'm so used to this culture right here. They cannot see anything else because that's all that they're used to. So it is having those discussions.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? It's really good to have those discussions before you actually bring that person home with you.
And then it's a matter of, do you even care?
Right.
Do you have the discussion with your partner and say, hey, I'm going to let you know this now. My family is of a certain way. They may, you know, cold shoulder you. They may say things about you. Are you comfortable even coming around? So
Mm-hmm.
having that, and we are very aware of our family. We know our family. We grew up with these folks.
Yes.
We've watched them do this to the other family members before us.
Right.
So to think that they would not do that to you, maybe not. So having that disclaimer, we're a large family just in ourselves. Me and my husband, we have 5 children. And it seems like our children, they will give a disclaimer to whomever they may be dating and bring over. Hey, my family's very transparent. They may clown you, but the thing is, we will accept whomever they are, because if they're good, they're good. If we get a bad vibe, we get a bad vibe, but it's not our relationship.
Mm.
I also know that there's not a lot of parents that will operate like that. Like, my goal is to be respectful of the person. I don't have to like the relationship, but I want to be respectful to my child and to that other person.
Right. Yeah. So you're also talking about it from a parent's perspective when your child brings home someone.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And like you say, you guys play around with them and that kind of stuff, but you really try to realize that that person's in relationship with your child and that's their business.
Yeah.
And you try to just always have a welcome home, which is great because in some relationships, as we talked about last week, um, with our guest, was that some relationships can be abusive.
Absolutely.
And if you pick up as a parent, if you pick up a bad vibe or something, or you feel like something's off and you just exclude the person, that's when someone who is controlling in a relationship, that's what they want, is for their partner to just have no family and they can control them or do whatever. You know what I mean?
Yep. And that's why it's always my goal to, again, we'll speak up on it. And I tell you, my children, they literally, even with their friends, they give that disclaimer. Our parents are they're very transparent. So they know me. And if they see, like, if I see my children retreat into themselves because I know them, then I'm going to ask questions. Because I never want my children to feel like they're stuck in a place where they can't rely on us in whatever they have going on there. But we also don't want to be in the middle of their relationship because that's not our job.
Mm-hmm.
So we have some family members and parents that don't know that line of being there to support versus being in the middle and in the way.
Right, definitely. They don't know the sense of boundaries.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And I think if your parents don't like your significant other, you got to understand what are the boundaries of this.
Right.
Yes, because it does affect the relationship. It affects how much you go over when people call. And the sad thing is, if you're in a relationship and you're wanting to have children,
Mm, yeah.
yeah, I
And
think it's a good thing.
that's how it starts to weigh on the relationship, because who doesn't want their family to like their partner? that's why you want to show them off. You may have that end goal, like you said, of marriage, of children. So you want to have that support. And when you don't, do you get to the point of, I don't care if they don't like you, I like you, and say something happens, now they may feel like, okay, well, I shunned my family for you and you left me. How do I go back to my family without them looking at me like, see, I told you so?
Right. Yeah, yes, yeah. But on the flip side, you have to realize that the person that you're choosing in a or the person you have a relationship with, it's a person you choose.
Right. You don't choose your family.
You don't family. No, no, it's not like you're up there and you're like, oh my gosh, these are the perfect group of people. You don't choose them. Yeah. So, but it's also like you said, it's having that balance, and you got to have that communication with your partner. Don't try to hide it, because that's the worst, when you try to hide it or defend it.
Absolutely. Or defend, yes. Trying to be the referee, you know, say your partner and your parents don't get along.
Right,
That's like the worst scenario that you can honestly be in.
right.
Because now you have to referee these two people. You know your parents because you grew up with them. You've learned this partner because you're with them every day. So you know the great qualities of both. So you're the referee trying to make the other party see the best in each other, and they're just steady fighting over you.
Right, exactly. Yeah, yeah. And then I was just thinking, if you're sometimes unable to stand up to your family, it's because sometimes you don't have boundaries, which is what we talk about so much in this podcast, the importance of boundaries, being able to stand up for yourself. Because sometimes your family may just look at you as, that's that little kid. That's that, yeah. Yeah, she doesn't know what she wants, and we know what's best, or we know what's best for him.
Yeah. Because they've seen you with your second and third grade boyfriend that you were breaking up with, and then your high school sweetheart. And so they keep that image of you not being able to make good decisions, not understanding, realizing that, hey, you grew up, you learned how to, pick your partner a little bit better. And so sometimes your family thinks they're doing the right thing when in actuality, they're just being overbearing.
Hmm.
Um, and I think of so many, like those reality shows. Yes, I'm a reality show aholic, guys. I'm gonna just admit that.
Okay. Okay.
But I look at those and I see, just thinking in particular, Candy, Todd, and Candy's mother, and
Right.
how the mom really wedged herself into a place that almost didn't allow that relationship between Candy and Todd to be together and grow.
Mm,
Um, and she found it difficult to stand up to her mother because, as a single mother, which her mother took care of her all of these years. And so when she became famous, she started to take care of her mother.
right.
And so here comes this guy who's going to cut into this taking care of thing. And so mom is like, hey, you're cutting off my time, my money, my child. And the jealousy part comes in.
Mm.
That's another aspect of it.
Right, right, right. Because that's not what the mom experienced or had. And so, or something she's always wanted. And then also in the aspect of the kid or the woman, she wasn't able to see a healthy relationship between a man and a wife, a man and a woman. Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So it's like, what do you do? What do you do when you're caught in that situation? One thing that she tried is they tried family counseling, they tried therapy for
Okay.
the whole family. You know, that honestly is a viable option if you truly see your partner as someone being in your life long term. Your family's not going anywhere. So family counseling or family therapy, yes, is a very valuable option for trying to get each party to take a step back out of the situation and see A, the ping pong ball that they've made you, and
Mhm.
B, where those boundaries need to be.
Right. In family counseling, it's a great tip to have. And when we have, when I've done family counseling, it's really important for that couple to at first be on the same page.
Yes.
Yes, yes. Don't go into family counseling if you and your partner are not on the same page and you bring in these other people, because then it's a hot mess.
Yeah,
So
that's like
yeah,
having a threesome with no rules. You can't do it.
yeah, which I try my best to prevent. So yeah, so one great tip, like you said, is family counseling, family mediation in some, different aspects. Another great tip, as we've been talking about, is defining what those boundaries look like.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? Okay, we may not like each other's, but what does that mean? How are we going to act when we're out in public, or okay, we're going to dinner with your family or to your family's house, we're not going to spend all night there. We're going to do XYZ. Yeah.
Yeah. Establishing those early on in the relationship. Like for me and my husband, we have families. Our parents are alive, which is a blessing because not all of us have our parents. And so we know that because we have children, so they have grandchildren.
Right.
And so we know that the major holidays, there's Christmas and there's Thanksgiving. And from the very beginning, we've always established where we would go. We would start the day with his family, with my in-laws, and then we would end the day with my family because my family is local here in Richmond. His is about an hour away. And we've done that for many years and it works, but that's something that we discussed together. We really came in together. As you said, we came in on the same page. And then we brought other people and got them involved.
Definitely. And what I was just thinking, because my fiance and I would come from two different backgrounds, he's actually Italian. And so bringing the families together also helps,
Mm-hmm.
because then the parents get to see the other parents.
Right.
Yeah, and working through that, which I think is a really good tip, for people to think about, in the sense of, how do we do this? The other thing I was thinking, it is so important for you to stand up, especially if you really are in a healthy relationship and you love your partner, to stand up for your partner. Because if you
Absolutely.
don't, in front of your family or in front of friends, it will lead to later on a lot of mistrust. Like, this person doesn't have my back.
Oh, absolutely. I'm a firm believer in right is right and wrong is wrong. Just like you stand up for your partner, if your partner's wrong, you stand up for your family. But you want to make sure that based on the situation, do it at the appropriate time so that someone doesn't feel like you smack their hand and they have to lick their wounds. It's okay to just find a peaceful squash for right now. And then we
Mhm.
have a more in depth, we need to talk about this thing because what you said or did is absolutely unacceptable. And you need to apologize or you need to, whatever it is. But it's important that the partner and the person and the family that had whatever going on, that they have that direct communication at the end of it, because you never want to be the middle communicator.
Right, definitely. And like you said, at the appropriate time, it's critical. So
Mhm.
if you guys have been drinking or doing whatever and a big thing happened, yes, that is not the appropriate time. No.
Absolutely not.
You sleep, you sober up, and all this other stuff. So you can have the appropriate time and place to discuss it, because you can't argue when someone's it's under the influence. It doesn't go anywhere.
Not at all. And
Yes. Yeah. And understand that different families communicate differently. So some families, you may have a partner where they talk to their parents all the time, 24/7. Yeah. Others not. It's um, just like J.J. Joyce says, learning families, cultures of both is good to know while settling consistent boundaries.
Yeah, that is huge. And again, starting with the core of you and your partner. You and your family have already built a relationship. So now it's time for you and your partner to start to establish and build a relationship that include consistent boundaries around you all while you're on the same page. One thing that I do feel like how me and my husband have been able to just navigate, because our families are definitely different, but they're also the same.
Okay.
And that's something, if you can find those commonalities, that's also helpful in understanding, and not just understanding family, but how your partner and you will communicate. If your partner grew up and everything was swept under the rug, nothing was talked about, they're going to do that in your relationship. So getting to know their family, as JJ Georgia says, learning those families, learning their cultures also helps you build a stronger bond with your partner that will help you understand them and how they operate with their family.
Hmm. Right. I mean, I'm just thinking of a case I have, a couple that their sole reason for being in therapy is because of family. You know, one side of the family drinks a lot. And so, the one that grew up in that, it's like, well, he's so used to it.
Mm-hmm.
While on the other part, they don't drink. So it's become this whole big misunderstanding and not being able to connect. I don't know if you would suggest, sometimes I was just thinking, if if a certain member of the family doesn't like you, one of the things you could do is have a one-on-one meeting or a lunch
Mm-hmm.
without other people involved. Because sometimes people act totally different when they meet with you one-on-one. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah, when you have an audience, you perform.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Versus just that intimate conversation on, maybe we don't like each other, but how can we coexist in such a family?
Yeah, and honestly, I like that, because you having that one-on-one, it helps you to understand why they don't like your partner. And
Mm.
if it's something as simple as they don't have a real valid reason, but you can hear that it's jealousy. Like, how dare you have a healthy relationship and I don't?
Right.
um Versus, oh, I know this person and they did something horrible to someone I know, years ago. Then that's something you can work with, that they've done some things in their past. That's a conversation that you can have, and you can work through that. And they would need to build trust in some form of fashion with that family member somewhere down the line. But if it's out of pure, jealousy or enviousness, there's not a whole lot you can do. But at least, okay, moving forward, I don't have anything to work on here with you, because I can't fix how
Right.
you feel.
Hmm. Right. And I was just thinking, there are sometimes people don't get along because of the families they grew up, in some areas, different families, have this battle.
Hmm.
Yeah. And that's something that you cannot fix at all. Yes. And it's really important, I guess, as J.J. George is saying, um, poor versus healthy boundaries are really does make a difference in the sense of you and your partner meeting in the middle to agree.
Right, because those rigid boundaries, they can be detrimental. We all have our hard boundaries, and I get that. But having porous and healthy ones are also important. You know, if I come from a family and we didn't drink, and I'm just using, the example that you gave us earlier, and my partner's family, they're drinkers. Well, if I set this rigid boundary of, well, I'm never going to your family's functions because I don't drink,
Right.
that's probably not a fight or rigid boundary that you want to have versus having a porous or healthy one to say, I'm okay with going to the family functions. But when I see that the drinking is starting to get a little bit heavy, I want to leave and I would hope that you would leave with me. That's a meeting in the middle.
Right, exactly. And that's what the couple has decided, that they will go to things, but by 6:30 they're 6:37 they're leaving because that's when the drinking starts to get a little bit more. So exactly, they've come up and found a medium. Like, how can we negotiate? How can we compromise?
Yeah. And that also helps the person who grew up in the drinking family. They're able to see, oh my gosh, yeah, we still can have fun, but we don't have to get hammered every
Right.
single function. And then the person that doesn't drink can say, okay, well, I saw where people just had a few drinks and they still were able to have fun. And you don't have to get sloppy. So they don't have to see the end result. So that's good for both parties as well.
Mm-hmm. Compromise is important because many times people really love being with their family in some
Mhm.
aspect, you know, because they grew up, and even if the family wasn't the best, that's where the child feels, or the young adult, or the woman, or even the people who are 70 or 50, like I am, you know.
That's where they feel comfortable.
Yes, that's what they feel comfortable with.
Oh, and that's a huge one that JJ Georges bring up is those in-house disagreements being worked out between you and your partner and not bringing the family members in. And here's the thing about that.
Ooh,
It
yes.
happens so much when you only reach out to your family to tell them about the disagreements. You have taken a paintbrush and given your family this free will to paint this picture of your partner. And when you guys get along, you expect your family to just forgive them as you did. And it doesn't work like that, because if all they know are the disagreements, they don't know the good points.
Mhm. Right, exactly. So when you're in a relationship and there's issues that come up, you really need to think, who do I feel comfortable telling? Because if you continue to tell your family, like you said, it can really just have a negative. They view them because one negative thing takes 17 positives.
Absolutely. And then the context of it,
Right.
ask a question. I'm just trying to figure out the best way to pose this question to my partner versus, oh my gosh, I can't believe they did so and so, and I can't. It appropriate venting is asking for advice,
Hmm.
and you don't even have to give away all of what's going on in the background when you're asking for that advice. So a good tip when it comes to navigating such a thing is ask for the advice without giving away too much information. And if it seems like someone is prying and pulling that information from you, I would caution you to say that's probably not the family member that you want to ask for that help from.
Right. When I have couples and they're not at their best, and sometimes one or maybe both need some extra support besides the therapist where we work and stuff, they need someone to vent to. And we have a discussion on who we're going to vent to. So your partner is fully aware that I'm only talking to person A, which
Mhm.
sometimes it helps if they're a friend, not family. Um, and you both agree on who it is. So there's no shock about it.
Yeah, because I do know that trust is gained and lost in those conversations with outside parties.
Hmm.
Because if your partner feels as though they don't have any type of secrecy between you, then they feel as though they cannot trust to give themselves fully to you.
Right, because they feel like you're going to say everything that happens.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or put pictures or whatever on social media, or, it's like we don't have any privacy.
Oh my gracious. So here's the biggest tip from us. Keep your business off social media.
Yes, yes. And even if you think you're being sly, and you're making these comments and you're not directly saying it's your partner knows.
Yeah. And that family who's been watching you because they don't like you, they know. And they're definitely fueling that fire.
Yes, definitely. So one of the best things to do when you're really frustrated is to just sometimes really journal. That's really a great thing.
Yes. Yes, it is. The class that I do, that the couples sensual touch yoga class that I do, is all about that. Let's not talk about it. Let's feel it out. Those disagreements that we have because we can't say it in words. We don't have the right words to say. Let's just feel it out until we get to a mature place that we're able to talk it out. Let's write it in our journals. And then maybe we revisit that at a time where cool heads have prevailed and we talk those out. At our retreat, we do the conversation jar. And I think you talked about it at one of your retreats as well. And I think I called it the 48-hour jar. You can write it down on that paper, but it can't stay in there longer than 48 hours. You all need to pull it out of there and have that discussion when no later than 72 hours, but at least 48 hours beyond that disagreement plays between you two.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Yeah, I love that idea. I've never thought about the whole thing as putting it in a jar, but it's really a wonderful thing to do, in helping a couple connect. And JJ George is also indicating the love language does help, because when you're talking to your partner, and let's say it is a difficult subject matter, if you appeal to their love language, it goes by much smoother. Even like for many people, for some people, touch.
Mm-hmm.
So if you were to just even hold their hand while you're talking, touch their thigh, all of those things really help.
Absolutely. And then understanding that love language, don't put yourself in that box
Right.
of it just being those main 7 that we learned about, but
Mm-hmm.
truly study your partner and understand what calms them. I love when you said, just putting your hand on them. If you see that when you hug your partner, feel it. If you hug them and every time you hug them, their shoulders drop and they just seem to melt into you, then absolutely, that's the thing. But if you touch your partner on the shoulder, on the hand, or you hug them and they kind of jump or they get more intense, then we know that maybe that's not the way to go. Sometimes the reality is, sometimes sex is the best method of let's talk. Um, and it's only because of the intimacy of the act and the closeness of the act and you wanted me, so now I feel a little bit more open. And I know it doesn't appeal to everyone, but understand that sometimes sex is your partner's love language. That's just the bottom line.
Mm-hmm.
It's not just physical touch. It's truly intercourse itself that makes them feel wanted and heard. And so they open themselves to speak, understand, and receive differently.
Right. And I was just thinking with sex and that true intimacy, it's also that sense of release
Mm-hmm.
that really helps decrease the anxiety, or even, clears your mind. Whereas sometimes you are able to definitely sit there and talk and be able to communicate. One other tip that I was thinking about that came about when I was talking about touch is, if you're with your partner's family, or you guys are, all together, and having a kind of a signal to your partner when you feel uncomfortable, or or if your partner feels uncomfortable in some kind of aspect of when you're with family, also helps to know when it's time to leave, when it's, that something has happened, when it's time to have someone's back.
Yeah.
So, different couples have different, symbols or techniques to communicate.
That is a very, very, look, what is our exit plan just in case? Because when grandma starts talking and she's gonna have her whiskey, she's gonna bring up old things. So when do we leave?
Yeah. And so if oh, he gave me the symbol, or he touched me, and that was, that was our sign to, hey, it's time to go. Yes. So you can both be on the same page.
Yep, absolutely. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so I guess the overall thing, just because I just said it, being on the same page is so critical.
Yes. When we get our partners and we want to immediately show them off to our families. We want to let them know how good we did. We want to just show them off. But the reality is, retreat into yourselves, learn each other genuinely and thoroughly. Introduce your partner to your family in big open gatherings first, maybe big cookouts. Don't make them those intimate dinners or the one-on-ones. I think it's always going to be best that you find the big functions to introduce this new partner into the family, that helps each and all of you not be in awkward situations, and being able to see each other in those environments. You then can see each other, how you interact with the families. Then you retreat back into yourselves. You work on, growing your communication in-house, learning each other. And so we work down to the intimate settings, to the small dinner parties, to the going to game nights and all together. And by that time, you've watched each in their home environments. You've talked about those things. I notice when you're with this cousin, you get really loud and it's really uncomfortable for me. Or I notice that when you're over here with your mom, you kind of ignore me and I really don't like that. So you all are able to talk about those. So when you go into the smaller environments, it's not this bull in the china shop thing you're trying to maneuver your way around.
Okay. So you come from a big family, right? Yes. Okay. When someone who comes from a small family,
it's nothing but small gatherings.
I like to start small. Yes. So when I get, starting with small, one person, this person and that. So, and it gets bigger. So when I'm in those big environments, I know one or two people. then I'm seeing everybody all at once. Because seeing everybody all at once, you get like an overload in some aspect.
Yeah, we rip Band-Aids off in this family. We're like, boom, throw you in the water.
So yes, it also, I guess, as we also realize, and it also depends on the type of family you come from.
Yes. So understanding that is vital.
Yes, definitely. Well, this has been a great conversation.
Absolutely. I love it.
Yes. I hope that anyone out there who's listening has gotten some tips and felt like, oh, this was definitely helpful. Well, we're going to take a small break. And when we come back, we're going to let you know the upcoming shows we have coming up just for you all.
Improving intimacy, everyday expressions is all about you and your partner. Opportunities for intimacy are scattered endlessly within every second of life you create together with your partner. Everyday expressions will educate you and open your eyes to just how great your relationship could be with a little TLC. Improving intimacy, everyday expressions provides a true baseline for the strength in your relationship you've been looking for. Available in Kindle, Audible, and paperback.
Welcome back to the Bringing Intimacy show, where intimacy is real. We've had a wonderful discussion on relationships and what happens if your family doesn't approve of him. And we've talked about just that intimacy of making sure you're connected as you address the issue.
Yes, indeed. I genuinely enjoyed this discussion, and we have even more amazing discussions that are coming up in the coming weeks. So on next week, September the 28th, we have a dating app for introverts with John Pethke. On October the 5th, we have Dating Theory, Let It Be. That's going to be with Dr. April and myself. On October the 12th, we have Intimacy Through Illness and Finding Love After Loss with Richard Strother. And then on October the 19th, we have Why Men Marry the Next Girl. And that's going to be a discussion that we'll have with Dr. April and myself. Great topics coming up.
Yeah, so look forward to those topics, and definitely follow us and give us feedback on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and LinkedIn. And we look forward to seeing you guys next week here on the Bringing Intimacy Back show.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you for listening to today's episode of Bringing Intimacy Back, where intimacy is real. You can also find us at bringingintimacyback.com, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and YouTube. Dr. April Brown's 7-book series, Improving Intimacy, is now on Amazon. We'll see you next Thursday at 3:30 p.m. Don't forget to follow, share, and subscribe.